Hello Marvel Snappers and welcome to G4G on YouTube. It's Napalm Dawn and today we're taking a look at the September 28th OTA that is going on within Marvel Snap. If you're not familiar with what an OTA is, it is an over-the-air update. It is an update where Marvel Snap changes things on the back end, server side, and it does not require any kind of a client-side patch. So for Steam and the mobile versions, you're not going to have to go to either Steam or your appropriate mobile app store to get this update. It just is going to happen as it doesn't require any graphic updates. So this update, like some of the OTAs have been in the past, is going to be a bit controversial, but we've come to expect that now for OTAs. So let's go ahead and get into it. First thing I'm going to do is show you here on my Steam client that the OTA has been applied because Psylocke is a 2-2 now instead of 2-1. Speaking of her really quick, does anybody think this variant kind of reminds them of Aeon Flux back in the day? And no, I don't mean the Aeon Flux movie, but the actual Aeon Flux anime that ran during MTV's Liquid Television days. If anybody's ever seen it, was always an extremely strange show. The one episode of Aeon Flux that blew my mind is the one where the main character basically kept changing every 3 or 5 minutes or so, and it would change characters. They'd get killed, and then it'd be a different one for like 5 minutes, and then they'd get killed. But yeah, who here is old enough to remember those old Aeon Flux animations or cartoons, depending upon your perspective? Anyway, let's get into what the OTA is about. So, on September 28th, 2023, the OTA balance is Galactus is getting nerfed from a 6-7 down to a 6-5. He still retains his abilities. This one is going to split the community. There's going to be people happy with it, those who are usually the victim of Galactus, and there's going to be those who are upset by it, which is those who use it. I personally don't have Galactus, so I'm unaffected either way, and I actually don't even run into Galactus that much. And if you want to say it sounds like you're a bronzy baddie, then if you're not running into Galactus, you'd be correct. I tend to play this one more for the season passes than the PvP position, so I don't tend to run around in parts of the ladder where Galactus is frequently. So for the Galactus one, I'd say I can't really offer an opinion either way. The community is going to be split on that. If you offer an opinion on it, you're going to get 50% of the people hating you and then 50% of the people clapping you. So don't really have an opinion either way on that one. Now, Kitty Pryde, who is dropping from a 1-2 to a 1-0, to me, that sounds like a absolute huge nerf. This one actually bothers me because it takes her out of any multiplicative scenarios. Anything where it's like your power is doubled or things like that, Kitty Pryde is no longer going to enjoy a benefit from that, because when you're at 0, you can't multiply it by anything. The only thing you could do with her is additive, and to me that sucks. So instead of, like, if you got her out on turn 1 and she dropped as a 1-2 and she came back to your hand, and then on turn 2 she'd go back as a 1-3, now in turn 2 she's just going to be a 1-1. That 2 drop I think is too much. If she was at least a 1-1, at least you can get multiplicative things in there and working. I don't like this one whatsoever. I don't see Kitty Pryde as that big of a menace that she needed to take this nerf. And in all honesty, this isn't Magic the Gathering, so you can't do to Kitty Pryde what would really make her crazy, insane, powerful if she was a card in Magic the Gathering. And let me explain over here. You have Falcon, okay? You have Beast. Falcon, when you look at him, says that return a 1-cost card to your hand, okay? You would not be able to drop Falcon on a turn, get Kitty Pryde to come back to your hand early, and then drop her again, and then have her ability go off, thereby doubling what she could do in a round. You could do that in Magic the Gathering. If you had the mana to do it, Kitty Pryde could be out on the field, you drop Falcon, you bring her back to your hand, you put her back out there again if you have the mana, you end your turn, and then she comes back to your hand at the start of the next turn, so thereby doing 2 of her abilities in 1 round rather than 2. You can't do that in Marvel Snap. So where is her threat? Where is her getting crazy insane? I mean, later in the game, you have Shuri that could boost her and everything like that. I mean, like, you know, even Beast, return your other cards at this location to your hand that cost 1 less. Beast's interaction with Kitty Pryde is that she would be a 0 going forward, and that's phenomenal. But she's coming back to your hand anyway, so she's not getting a boost from Beast other than her cost drop. You could still drop her later and, you know, get her boosted from Shuri and things like that, but I don't really think Kitty Pryde is the scourge that they're making her out to be on this one, and I hope that in the future they rethink this one a little bit and maybe at least walk that one back or get her to a 1/1 so that she can get some, you know, multiplicative zones out there, like where you play a card, double its power, you know, zones like that. Now just they aren't going to benefit Kitty Pryde, and that gets rid of the macro play of it. You can't use luck and strategy and intelligence for Kitty Pryde now. I don't like this one at all. Snowguard is another one that I don't particularly have an opinion on, since I don't have Snowguard, thereby not having the auras and everything. Their rationale we'll take a look at down below, but Snowbird has gone from a 2/3 to a 3/3, so that one gets a straight nerf with the cost increase. Snowbird is ignore all location abilities until the end of next turn or the game. Snow Bear, trigger the effect of this location. The bear is getting a buff nerf. Its cost is going up 1, but its power is going up 1, and we'll discuss why they did this in just a moment. Now, the straight buffs are Psylocke going from a 2/1 to a 2/2. She still retains the ability on next turn you get +1 energy. Yeah, that's just a straight buff there. She retains everything she's done. You don't play her in a different spot. She's just a little bit of a stronger card now, rather than a pump and dump where you get extra energy, and then, you know, for all you care, you can run her in a destroy deck and then eat her up with a symbiote after that. Like, hey, you've done your duty. Thanks for the +1 energy. You can get the fuck out now. It's nice to see her get some of her own viability there. And now Squirrel Girl goes from a 1/1 to a 1/2. You know, all throughout this game over here, you can kind of wonder if Squirrel Girl got done dirty, considering her power in the comics of being able to beat Thanos and Doctor Doom and everything, and just being a 1/1 that drops chittery squirrels everywhere. Some people think that is a little bit cheap. Now, I do believe the squirrels should retain Squirrel Girl's buff, so we should see the squirrels actually being one. No, the squirrels retained 1/1. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this and their rationale down below over here. So here is what they're saying. Galactus, We expected Iloth to find a home in Galactus decks, which wasn't a problem in and of itself. Exciting new cards shouldn't hit the cutting room floor because existing cards might like them too much, especially if that card is Galactus. The reason we reworked him was to give us a knob so that we can rein him in. Given his metrics spike well outside of our acceptable range for a week, we're taking a harder line with this change than usual based on the impact. We liked Galactus where he was before Iloth, so that's our target range on this one. Again, not going to offer opinion. You're going to get hated or liked either way. Do with Galactus as you will. Although it's funny, you read this rationale here, and as a World of Warcraft player, it really reminds me of when they talk about the rationale of buffing and nerfing DPS after a week of being in Mythics, and they'll be like, oh, Evoker Dragons are too strong, so we're going to nerf this ability so that everybody doesn't live forever because now the healers are God. Yeah, their rationale often really, really reminds me of changes you see within MMOs. So Kitty Pryde, Kitty's been places, she's seen things, it's been a fun ride. Kitty was an integral player in the metagame's best deck at least 4 different times, and each one of those decks was meaningfully distinct from the rest. It's a pretty rare feat. It speaks to her raw strength as a card that both eats excess energy and has cool mini combos like Angela and Hulkbuster. However, as we continue to make similar synergies, we want other cards to get their opportunities to compete with Kitty. This change is a little preemptive as we expect Kitty would be too strong in October without it. So I wonder what they're hinting at over here. I don't know how you bring Kitty back, no matter what card is out there, unless she gets at least 1 power. Going down to 0 power, I think, is a divide by 0 error. It absolutely fucks it up. Psylocke, we've had this change internally for a while, but we wanted to wait and see how the dust would settle with some decks to play with energy ramp and cost reduction. We hope Psylocke can eventually join the Electro Magic Wave crowd as a common way to push big plays. She maintains a distinct identity when compared to other curves and deck designs. So straight buff, pretty solid rationale over there. At least they give her the ability to stand on her own, rather than just being a jolt of energy and then chewed up. Add a 1 power squirrel to each other location. That stays the same as we've noticed, but she goes up to a 1/2. The squirrels do not. Like Mysterio, Shauna, and Squirrel Girl's total power has been on the low side for how much space she takes up at your locations. Largely, she's been confined to supporting early Khazar decks for new players and death decks and competitive play. So you see what they're saying here. They're saying that the squirrels weren't really designed to go with like Patriot that much. It's just they're there for a symbiote to chew up or a deathlock to destroy, things like that. We're glad to have her continue on both of these roles. But she's a fun and appealing enough card to give a little bit more power to see if she can find more homes. She's been acting pretty spooky since this change, so be careful when you're walking through Central Park next month. Give the squirrels some love. I mean, it's good that she's going up to a 1/2, but I think the squirrels should go up to a 1/2 also, as it gives you more brood Patriot synergies, maybe even Cerebro 2 decks taking advantage of it. Now we're on to Snowguard, Snowbird, Snowbear. We've already discussed that it's the hawk and the bear that have been changed, not Snowguard herself. We're happy that a rework brought her in from the cold. However, the bulk of her strength has been because she was getting used with Loki and the Collector, simply because she's giving you extra cards that are just extra cards. So Second Dinner is saying that her cards weren't useful in and of themselves, other than the fact that they fed other synergies out there, mostly because Collector gets buffs based on the card entering your hand because it's being generated by Snowguard. and I say here the auras were really secondary. We don't mind that much. The auras are situational, but we wanted her to, be essentially more efficient. The bear is gaining more power because his effect has proven to be the weaker of the two. The change is the first of a larger series of adjustments you'll see go live in next week's patch as we shift cost and power of several small cards that add cards to your hand to get a more diverse spread of enticing options, goals, and playstyles. I wonder what they're hinting at over here, but Loki Collector, I've got a Loki deck here that does not use Snowguard because, as you will see here, unfortunately don't have it. But here is my Loki deck with the TVA background, Lokipotamus, Kitty Pryde, Mantis, feeding me cards from the opponent's deck, Quinjet, Quinjet Collector, name a better pair. The Collector, obviously. Cable, because it gives me a card from the enemy again. Quinjet Collector Synergy, Mirage. This is one I don't hear talked about in a lot of Loki decks. I snuck this one in because I don't like being totally what people call web deck, where it's just like, hey, in an MMO, what's the best DPS right now? Okay, I'm going to play that class. I'm going to play that spec. I'm going to get that best in class weapon. Yay, look at me doing 1,000,000 points of damage because I'm cookie cutter. I like to maybe get an idea and splash things. In Mirage, there's a little bit of my own splash in this one. Agent Coulson, add a random 4 or 5 cost card to your hand. Again, good synergy with Quinjet with the cost reduction, feeds Collector. Loki, what can you say? He is the absolute root of a Loki deck, clearly. I'm going to actually bump him up to Legendary there. My next cash is at 4690, and I'm at 4654. It's getting there. About 40 or so away. I do have High Ev now, and I do have Kang now. So, yeah, I think I might try to push to get Mobius. I'm sure I won't. I got Jean Grey the last time the Spotlight Cash was something important. Nick Fury, on reveal, add a random 3 random 6 cost cards to your hand. Again, feeds the Collector, hopefully reduces on Quinjet. Emma Frost, copying the highest cost card in your opponent's hand and bringing it to your hand. So, and then of course Devil Dino, where hopefully if you get a lot of extra cards that you can't spend, it feeds Devil Dino. And then Sarah, further reducing the cost of cards in my hand. She's not that powerful in and of itself. If she was a 5/5, you could say she has her own life, but obviously she's there for cost reduction if you can plan it. So that's my Loki deck. It does pretty well. And yeah, so I don't know. The Kitty Pryde one really bothers me. Dropping her as a 1/0 and on turn 2 only being at a 1/1 instead of a 1/3. They've cut her off at the kneecaps in terms of her curve. And I weep for Kitty Pryde over there. The rest of them don't affect me that much. I have some decks with Psylocke in it, not really that many. And to be honest, my Electro ramp deck, I've now shelved to make room. I always save my decks when I get rid of them, but Annoyance has come back just as a fun little control deck because I wanted to play around with Master Mold, and that's where I took my Electro Ramp deck and saved it off to the side. I really wish Second Dinner would give us more than 20 decks over here. I'd like 40, but even just going up another 10 to 30, or maybe even spending like 100 gold to have an expansion, the way some gacha games do, I think would be nice. But yeah, this 20 limit is really kind of bugging the shit out of me. But the way I get around is I just take a screenshot, I save it, and then if I have to go back to that deck, I just look at the screenshot and recreate it. The only one I really do that a lot is my weenie deck whenever we have the play. There it is, play 1 cost cards. So yeah, it looks like I'm bringing the weenie deck back tonight. Anyway, so that, folks, is the September 28th OTA. Again, to kind of go over it super quickly, Galactus has been nerfed. No other changes other than the nerf. Kitty Pryde has absolutely been destroyed. No other way around that. I don't know what will save her, but I think dropping 2 power is just huge. Snowguard doesn't kind of affect me that much. I don't care about it a hell of a lot. I don't see it a lot. I don't run them in my Loki deck, unlike Kitty Pryde, so I don't have it. Doesn't affect me. Psylocke, okay, cool. She gets to have her own identity a little bit. And Squirrel Girl, cool, but why not bump the squirrels up too while you're at it? And then I think it would be a really good change. So that is it for me for the September 28th OTA update on Marvel Snap. And I will catch you guys later. Napalm out.